Today we're talking Delta's proposed merger with US Airways, the Charlotte Bobcats, and Charlotte's craft beer scene. I'm Carlton Hargrove, and this is 282. Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us for another episode of 282. Once again, we've got a great conversation planned today, and we've got a great group of panelists. We're also joined by 282 contributor Jarvis Holliday, who is monitoring the world of social media. What's up, Jarvis?
Hey, I hope you guys tweet your comments to today's topics using the hashtag 282TV. We hope to have a lively and fun discussion, and we're incorporated into the show.
Thank you very much, Jarvis. Thank you very much. So we're looking for Twitter to kind of get on fire as we stream this show. But let's introduce today's guests. We've got two regular sort of 282 guests. We've got Jack Brayboy, who is the host of WTVI's Small Business Spotlight. That's the correct name, right?
Charlotte Small Business Spotlight. Yes.
Jack Brayboy.
Noon on WTV.
Okay, thank you for
Sundays.
that. Nice plug, nice plug.
You know.
We also have Todd Ford, who is the owner of Noda Brewing. The Noda Brewing Company?
That's correct.
Okay.
3 months old this past week.
Congratulations. Right. And another regular on 282, we have Mary Curtis, who you can see locally on Fox News Rising on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m.
In the 7 a.m. or 7:10,
yes. And you can read her stuff nationally on the Washington Post blog, She the People.
Yes,
okay.
She the People.
All right.
I have a piece this morning.
Oh,
everybody's
man.
getting a plug
You
in.
might as well.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate that. So let's just jump right into the show, into the topic. We're going to start talking about beer, which is one of my favorite topics.
Mine as well.
You know, I'm sure. Well, in the last few years, Charlotte has been sort of gaining in increasing its opportunity to become a beer town. Back in the day, I think we were sort of known as sort of a Bud Light kind of city, But now you've got a great selection of beers that are appearing at places where you can buy and drink. You've got consumers who want something different, and you've got places like Noda Brewing who are actually creating the beer. So the question then becomes, are we really on our way to becoming a beer town? What do you think, Todd?
I think we're a lot closer than we were just a few years ago, like you said.
Okay.
If you look at the statistics, craft beer is still only 8% of the beer consumption market out there right now. So the other 92 by default is still light American lagers like Bud, Miller, and Coors. So we certainly aren't taking over the entire market, but I think we are providing an alternative and a specialty one that is gaining popularity, and I think we're starting to see the 92% slightly erode and the 8% grow at a pretty good rate. Well,
let me ask you this. The term craft beer, what does that exactly mean? Because, we throw it around today, but what is the actual proper terminology for that?
Well, I think it depends on the individual who's given the definition, but I would say it's a small crafted beer, small quantities that with unique ingredients and with the focus on quality and on taste, not necessarily on volume or on marketing.
Okay. Now, you guys actually create the beer in Charlotte?
Absolutely.
You have all the brewery equipment and everything?
We do.
What goes into making, now how many different beers do you guys churn out?
Right now we probably have 7 or 8 different beers. We have a standard lineup of 4 that we do year round, and then we mix in seasonals and different specialty beers within the standard lineup. Okay.
Now, Mary, are you a beer drinker?
Actually, I'm not. But I wanted to ask you: do you have any kind of beer that you would recommend for someone to, sort of explore the world of beer drinking?
Well, I think part of craft beer's success right now is that we have a lot of selections that will lend itself to people who maybe not in the past have not been big beer fans, but maybe been wine connoisseurs or sparkling wines and things like that. So different beers like Belgian sour ales and things like that are now finding their place with people who would not have normally liked beers or traditional beers in the past. And they're finding that malted beverages can have a whole variety of different flavors and appeal to a lot of different people.
I did not know that.
I was wondering, how do you differentiate yourself from others who might be doing the same type thing, and do you kind of sample what the rest of the market is and say, okay, these folks, especially in the Charlotte area, are creating this type of beer. how do we differentiate ourselves?
Well, to some extent, we like making the beers that we enjoy at Noda Brewing Company. I mean, it's much better to do and stay to play to your strength. And if you like a particular beer, you're going to be a better brewer at that type of beer. There are other brewers here in Charlotte that do a fantastic job. Paul Mecklenburg does German-style beers. They're probably the oldest active brewery right here in Charlotte right now. And there would be no reason for us to do their type of beers. They do an excellent job at it. Where we enjoy their beers, but we're not going to reproduce their beers, and they're not going to reproduce ours. And the same goes for the other breweries here in town, Four Friends and Birdsong. We enjoy their beers, but we're going to do something unique, set ourselves apart from the rest of the group, and play to our strength at least.
Well, Todd, you know, the show Drinking Made Easy did an episode about Charlotte's beer scene recently. I think it came on like a few weeks ago, and I know a lot of places had viewing parties. Did you happen to see that episode?
I haven't seen that episode,
Okay.
but I've seen the episode for Asheville, and we
Okay.
actually did host a viewing party for that
Oh,
one.
cool. Do you get the feeling that now that shows like Drinking Made Easy are actually covering the scene, that that people's taste will kind of, I don't know, increase, or people will get more, I don't know what the terminology is for
Probably
a sommelier of a beer.
Right. Well, actually,
They
yeah,
have those, right?
Absolutely. I think
beer
that's going to
alley.
help.
Okay.
The more people try different styles with different ingredients, made by different brewers around the country, around the world, I think the more likely that they're going to enjoy a larger selection, bigger breadth of styles, and that's good for all of us.
And how do you get people like Mary? I don't know about Jack, but how do you get people like Mary to try out beer where they would say, well, I don't really like beer?
Well, we do that on a daily basis. We have a tap room at our facility where we're able to bring individuals in, educate them on the process of the brewing science. We can actually show them as we're brewing beer a lot of times the process. And
You get samples?
yeah, we absolutely we certainly do give samples.
Do you have any today? No?
We're working. We're working.
All right.
And you do something like this goes better with the chicken and this goes better with
Absolutely.
the... Really?
We do we do partnerships with restaurants. We do beer dinners where patrons are now finding that, you know, in the past wine was the pairing beverage that you put with food, and now I think people are finding out that beer pairs very well with food too. So you can do some pretty extravagant dishes, some very creative dishes with cooks that actually pair up certain and different beer flavors with each of the courses. And that's a way to introduce these type of different beers to individuals. And I would say the other way is also just to bring people in and talk to them about what they like. If they like wines, well, then I could probably suggest a beer that's going to be almost wine-like.
Okay. Now, here's the last question I want to ask about the beer topic before we kind of move on. Where do you suggest people go to buy these beers from? Are there particular places that you would say, hey, this place offers a great selection, or, you know, if you like wine, then you should go here to buy that? You know?
Right. There are various gastropubs here in Charlotte that specialize in high-quality food and because of that, high-quality beer as well. I would recommend they would visit these, like the Liberty Restaurant on South Boulevard. There are also a lot of high-end beer shops. They usually are the same shops as the high-end wine shops, where and also a lot of local bottle shops here in town that have built up quite a bit of a following. And they're probably your best source because you're going to get an opportunity to talk to an individual who can listen to what you like and kind of make sure that you're going down the right path with your selection.
Okay. Well, like I said at the beginning of the show before the camera started airing us, I'm a big high-gravity beer drinker. And do you guys all create high-gravity beers?
We do.
Now, what's the alcohol content we're talking about?
Well,
'Cause I need it really high.
Yeah.
I think our
40%.
highest beer is probably around 12% right
Whoa,
now.
that's pretty good.
We'll have a beer come out in the next few weeks that's 9.7% Belgian triple.
Okay.
So it's our first beer that's probably 100% to the style guidelines. We usually kind of stretch the guidelines one direction or another. This particular beer is basically a Belgian triple, our version of it, but it's to the guidelines of a standard Belgian beer.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that education.
Lots of education.
And I will be coming by for a tasting
I look forward to
later today. I don't know if you do them today. Now we're going to move on to sports.
Love sports.
And we're going to talk about, the Super Bowl was yesterday. But basketball is still going on. You know, I'm not a sports fan. Basketball is still going on. But the Charlotte Bobcats, our team, is not really doing that well. In fact, they're the worst team in the NBA. I think you told me that, right? Yeah. So, with that being the case, could being the worst team in the NBA be the best thing for this team? Now, I'm going to shoot to Jack on this, but first I want to get Jarvis to chime in because he actually brought up this topic at the meeting last week. So, Jarvis, what are your feelings about this subject, man?
Well, I think it's not good in one of the last week's episodes of Pardon the Interruption. Tony Kornheiser said that he thinks the Charlotte Bobcats are possibly the worst team he's ever seen. And so you think about a league that's decades old, and for them to be labeled as possibly the worst team you've ever seen, that's not good. And I think before the season started, during the offseason, the ownership, Michael Jordan, everyone, didn't want to admit that they basically gutted the team and want to rebuild, and this season will be a wash. They didn't want to say that because they don't want fans not to come, but that's what it is. I think the Bobcats, not only do they have the worst record in the league, but they're on pace to have the worst record in their franchise history, even though it's a shortened season, just winning percentage. So all we can hope for is that equals a number 1 or number 2 draft pick come summer.
Thank you, Jarvis. You heard that, Michael Jordan, okay? I know you're watching the show. Jack, what are your thoughts? The worst team, is that the best thing?
Well, it's not necessarily the best thing because there's no guarantee, even if they, first of all, the way the lottery situation is set up, there's no guarantee they'll get the first pick, even if they are the worst team. They'll get something within the first 4 picks.
Okay.
Then the next thing is they have to make sure they make a good decision with whatever pick it is they get, even if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the latest track record has not been good for Michael Jordan and the decision makers with regard to the Bobcats. See Adam Morrison, who a few years ago they drafted. Right, yeah, exactly.
You can't.
Well, maybe you can Google him and find out where he is, but he's not on an NBA roster right now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure about that. So for somebody who was drafted so high to no longer even be in the league after 4 or 5 years is a testimony to how poor that pick really was. So are they in the best case scenario? Yes, because they are going to gut the team, and we do have an example. See Carolina Panthers a year ago, where Jerry Richardson pretty much gutted the team, knew that the coaching staff and everybody was going to be on a real short leash, and that turned into Cam Newton, which now there's all kinds of hope and promise, based on what he did last season. If the Bobcats can repeat and have somebody as good as Cam and can bring that kind of energy, then it's a great scenario. And I think the fans will be willing to suffer through this year, thinking that next year may bring somebody like that. But again, the proof is in the pudding. Whether if they get a good pick, what will they do with it? And if it's a home run, it's a good thing. If not, not so good.
Mary, you were actually saying that your son is a big NBA fan.
NBA fan, and when he's home for Christmas, we always go to a game. We didn't even go, really, this season. Because, as you said, the Panthers did not have a winning season, but they were fun to watch, and there's the promise that they were going to do better. So they were like to watch them. The Bobcats, it's just kind of depressing to go to see them. They only really draw a crowd when people want to see the team the Bobcats are playing. If they want to see Miami, the Lakers, these kinds of things. And also, when the basketball first came, the NBA first came to Charlotte, that was their first professional team. So everybody came out. Well, now, I think it's more of a football city, as you said, and so it's not as much of a novelty, and so it's hard for them to come to see it. And and this area loves their basketball because it has great college teams that folks follow the college sports. But when the college teams are more interesting in some ways, in many ways, than watching the Bobcats, why would you come out? So
well, Jack, we were talking about gutting the team and the whole philosophy behind that. How has this fared with other teams, of maybe the same sucky factor? Has gutting the team and then rebuilding them, is that like a recipe for success for other teams?
Yes and no. The LA Clippers come to mind.
Okay.
They've had a long track record of being bad.
They was gutting for like decades, right?
My point exactly. And they still never got anywhere. Now, that said, you had a team like Oklahoma City that was bad. They moved. Well, actually, they started a franchise there, and by the luck of the draw, they got 2 really good players in Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, and now they're a top flight contender. So it depends upon literally if those draft picks pan out, then you've got a chance. And it only takes 2 or 3 players perhaps to turn around a roster. As far as this year goes, it's time. There's going to be more change to come because they can't sit like this much longer. The head coach right now is more of a pat you on the back kind of nice. We'll get them next time guy. They need somebody not to hand them out a lollipop, you know, in their lunch pail. They need to light a fire under these guys.
Right.
And you got a bunch of veterans who are going to get paid either way, so there's no real motivation for them. So the problem is they've got a young core with the latest 2 draft picks who are pretty good guys, but they still got a long ways to go, and there's no guarantee. But you know what? If these guys keep losing the way they're losing, they're going to get, you know, the mind can only take so much,
Oh, yeah.
and they just get beat up.
Paul Silas, I heard him say that this giving him sleepless nights, and you don't want to hear that from the coach.
My goodness.
Yeah, and then the players are, are not doing
Wake
well.
up and go to practice.
Well, they just don't have the talent and the money right now. They don't have the potential right now.
Well,
for
that's
a
the
big
thing
winning
too. Is like,
season,
you know, Todd, and I don't know if you're a basketball fan, but money usually equals, you know, talent, doesn't it? Or no?
It seems like it does. I was a charter season ticket holder for the Hornets, and it was a very exciting time in Charlotte for basketball because basketball was the only thing that we had to do on a professional sports level. But you know, the entertainment options now are just so much more broad now that the Bobcats are in town, the Panthers are in town. You still have the college sports. People have a choice, and they want to see, obviously, the organization, whether it's the Bobcats or the Panthers, they want to see them making that effort to get better and get better quickly. And it's been a little frustrating to support the Bobcats at times when you see management changes and then you see, you know, poor choices for draft picks. And as you're a weak team, you do get those higher draft picks. What you're going to do with them is going to determine your success with the fans, obviously, and also on the standings at the end of the year.
And some of their most popular players were traded away, so it's difficult.
I know there are a lot of people in Portland right now that were really happy to see some of our players come
Yeah.
out there.
Felton, Gerald Wallace, right?
Yeah,
And New
all
York
the
as well.
kids with Wallace shirts, you still see them running around. But all this gloom and doom, all it takes is some good picks, as you say. If they start winning, okay, then the crowds
So,
will
but
come.
we're like a
They'll come.
winning city, aren't we? I mean, well, a lot of
everybody-
cities.
a lot of
Everybody
cities.
is.
But I mean, some cities, like, you know, I think Chicago, they support their teams no matter how awful they are.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know.
So you're saying kind of a front runner kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
grass
we
is
have against
green, we'll come see you if the
right,
grass is
fair
green, but
weather
if it's
fan
not,
type
they're fair
thing.
weather fans.
Now,
Right?
I mean,
That's not a true fan base, though.
so
you're supposed
so
to
do you
support
feel like
your-
we don't have a true fan base in Charlotte?
I think the Bobcats have had a tough road to go, and it goes all the way back to the arena deal,
Right.
the whole Bob Johnson,
Right.
you know, presence, non-presence, the whole Michael Jordan effect, which, you know, his sort of reluctance to be the figurehead and saying, you know, and people, I'm not going to go to see Michael Jordan sit in the stands. If I'm going to pay my money. That said, you are still one of the top 2 or 3 biggest names in the world right now with regard to a sports figure. So at some point, if you sell something, if you're going to sell Michael Jordan, sell something just to get the people to come, and also people have to buy into, is he truly committed
Right.
to making this team better? And if he is, the proof's in the pudding. And I think people are still a little lukewarm to that whole thing,
Yeah.
although it is Michael Jordan.
And we don't have that legacy as a city. You know,
Right.
some cities, I mean, as my son says, he's a long-suffering New York Knicks fan. He was there when they were
That's
good.
50, 60
And
years.
no, he used to
I mean, I
go.
know not what I'm saying, but the history of the
but
franchise.
the history of the franchise is so great. As you
Right.
say, there's some cities that will go, and it's difficult to get a season ticket. They'll fill it, and it's the whole experience.
Right.
But Charlotte is not that kind of city. We do not have the legacies of these teams being here for all this time. So you're not going to have that base of folks who are just going to go no matter what. So yes, Charlotte, to answer your question,
They're front
they
runners.
want a winner. And at least they want an interesting game.
Right.
They want to see players mix it up. They don't want to see lopsided scores.
Yeah.
I mean, what didn't they
You know
lose
what's like
recently?
They lost by 44
Globetrotter game.
They lost by over 40 points.
The Washington
yeah.
Generals do better than that.
Well, yeah, but
The Globetrotters.
Right, exactly.
let's not dog them
I used
too
to watch
much.
the Globetrotters, yeah.
I don't want them
I'm a
coming
big
get us.
Globetrotters fan, yeah.
We're dogging them Pretty much. Come on, let's see it out.
Truth is, it is what it
Yeah.
is. Truth hurts.
I want to switch gears. I'm going to switch gears, and we're actually going to talk about the whole thing going on with Delta and US Airways. Delta, the Atlanta-based airline, there was talk last week. There's a proposed merger with US Airways, which is actually out of Arizona, but their biggest hub is in Charlotte and kind of the dominant airline here. For some people, the hope is that this will help travel. This will improve travel out of Charlotte. But, there is, I guess, the reality that maybe it might make things a little worse or not improve things at all. And I want to kind of get a sense from you guys. Do you think this is a good thing for Charlotte, or would the merger be bad for Charlotte? Mary, what do you think?
Well, right now, all the airlines, the big thing is consolidation. So it seems like a deal might happen. One week you hear something that's going on with, AirTran, Southwest, Delta, US Airways, American.
Right.
And so it almost is inevitable. And it's really difficult to see what's going to happen. Now, Delta has its hub in Atlanta. So, I don't know what would happen exactly.
Right.
And when they make these deals, they always give you guarantees. Now, Charlotte is a pretty powerful airport. I've been on a tour with Jerry Orr, and they have a lot going on. That's one reason why we had Chiquita come down here, is because of all the hubs and all the flights. So I think that it still is in a pretty strong position no matter what.
Todd, now you actually were a pilot up until how long ago?
This past summer, for the last 25 years,
Wow.
actually.
All right. So what is, from a pilot perspective, what do you think about this?
Well, the consolidation is for one reason, is for the airlines to either become profitable or to remain so. Flying is a very expensive process. The fuel cost is probably 6 times what it used to be just 4 or 5 years ago. While ticket prices are very slow to climb. Obviously, that's because if one airline raises their prices and the others don't follow suit, then they very quickly find that they're the odd man out, and then they lose all their passengers. So it's a very cash flow intensive business, and cash flow is king. So if they're very concerned about making sure that they get good revenue growth, that they are using the seats that they have on the aircraft as wisely as possible.
Right.
But there's strong evidence to suggest, because of these mergers, and I'll go back to the Northwest Airlines merger with Delta just a few years ago, where you had all these different hubs in the Midwest. Northwest has a hub in Detroit, another one in Memphis. Cincinnati was a hub for Delta.
Minneapolis, yeah.
Minneapolis as well. Right. Delta has hubs in Cincinnati and also in Atlanta, a mega hub in Atlanta. And at the time that they were trying to get through this regulatory process, Delta was telling all these communities, well, we don't see a dramatic drop in the use of our hubs, any of them. But you can talk to Chiquita Banana in Cincinnati, and one of the reasons they cite for coming to Charlotte is that the Cincinnati hub that Delta had was losing so many flights so quickly that it made it difficult to get their employees around the country.
Jack, mergers usually mean the loss of jobs, or because, with redundancies, that kind of thing. Would this be sort of a bad thing for Charlotte economically? Will we lose some jobs that are based here?
It's hard for me to say. I'm not really that nuanced in, having not really seen the way the deal lays out, because most folks, like a Chiquita, when they came to town, said, we're going to guarantee X amount of jobs. We're going to improve the workforce. So I don't know if but to your point, on a profitability scale, are they going to downsize to try to make money, or are they going to try to improve services by maybe creating some jobs? Because for me as a consumer, a merger, all I want to know is it going to make my flying experience better or worse?
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. Is hiring more employees necessarily going to make it worse? Make it better? It could make it worse, depending upon the systems that are in place. Okay. All I'm really concerned about is it going to cost me more to fly? Will I have more flying options?
You're a cold man.
That's it. That's it. It's the bottom line for me as a consumer.
Right. I think we have a news item from Jarvis who pulled up some information about this. What do you have, Jarvis?
Yes, Charlotte Business Journal published an article today that said Charlotte Douglas International Airport had record traffic in 2011 with slightly more than 39 million travelers boarding planes during the year. That was a 2% increase from 2010. And airport officials cite the increase in flights to airlines serving more flights from CLT. So that could be something that changes if we see some airline mergers.
Now, with that increased traffic, and this is my last question, we're going to wrap it up. The DNC's coming. We know we've had security problems at Charlotte Douglas Airport. With your conversations with Jerry Orr, do we get a sense that this merger could affect any kind of security upgrades or changes, or are there any upgrades coming?
Well, they have, what we see when we go to take the commercial flights is just a small part. There's so many hangars and things that are private flights and private airlines and corporate jets and things like that, and a lot of folks will be coming in on those. And when I talked to the DNC folks this week about security, you know, they are keeping so much of it. It's between the security, the local police, the federal police, the Homeland Security, and so many of those arrangements. Yes, they're having meetings all the time, and you can be sure of it, but they're not really letting out too much publicly of what's going to happen for security reasons. Okay,
so we're going to wrap it up. We're going to actually go through a little lightning round really quick, last minute or so of the show. I want to know, what do you think is the most underreported or unreported story of last week? I'll start it out. I actually did a piece for Q City Metro today that's about, it's Black History Month oriented, but it's actually asking people to look 10 years into the future of Charlotte's Black community, and we're actually forecasting how things should progress. Not how they're going to, but how these sort of local movers and shakers want to see different areas progress. So that's on QCityMetro.com. Mary?
Well, since you go there, I think I will too. Well, if you look at this week's Creative Loafing, I write a weekly online column update for the Democratic National Convention. And this week I do have the cover story on Black History Month. And I look back about the past of North Carolina Black history and Black politicians, and it has not always been easy. But now we have a tremendous amount of African Americans, women, who are planning the DNC, and I profile several of them. So that's a story that I try to give you.
We got your plug, Mary.
Oh, well, it's an important story.
Todd, story that we may not have seen, anything beer related?
I got to say, I think the DNC is such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really hard to fathom all the work that's going behind the scenes right now.
We're Jack, we won't be able to get to
That's
today.
okay.
So thank you very much, folks. Thank you. Jack will be back, and thank you for joining us once again on 282. Come back next week and check us out again.